Hello children. As you all know that we are going to start a new chapter, that is sexual reproduction in plants, or say sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, so firstly I had told you about an angiospermic plant that it comprises of flowers. And what is the characteristic feature of a flower, or what is the need of a flower in a plant? If I say what is the reproductive organ of a plant, so what is it? That is a flower. Okay, if we say in a plant what is the sexual reproductive organ of a plant, that is a flower. Okay, if we say it is a reproductive organ of a flower, of a plant, then it should be comprising the reproductive organs. And as we know that this chapter is what, the heading of the chapter is that sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, so as you all know, previously I had taught you in the lesson 1, this is your lesson 2. Okay, in lesson 1 we had discussed that reproduction is of two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Okay, so in sexual reproduction, what was the characteristic feature or characteristic comparative feature of asexual and sexual reproduction? That asexual reproduction comprises of one parent, whereas sexual reproduction comprises of two parents. Okay, so similarly you can see here this is a flower, and in your previous classes, in your smaller classes, must have read a typical diagram of an angiospermic flower, and this is a typical angiospermic flower. So you can see here, let's label it up. So what is it? The center blue part, this center blue part, and these brown part, what are these? Okay, let's see. A colorful part, whenever we see a flower, we are attracted towards its colorful portion. So what is the name of the colorful portion? That is petal. Okay, petals, another name you must be knowing, all of you, in 11th we read about it. Petal is also called as corolla. You call it corolla. Okay, the green portion of a flower, that is sepal. Or what is the another name of sepal? That is calyx. Okay, similarly here, this part is called as stigma. That is stigma. And this is style, and this is ovary. Okay, inside the ovary is what? Ovule. Always remember, children. And what is this? This is anther, and this is filament. Okay, these all are the labeling, or say this is the labeling of a flower, a typical angiospermic flower. We need to differentiate them into male and female part, or male and female parent. Okay, firstly, any one of you, you must be remembering in the previous chapter we also discussed about bisexual flower and unisexual flower. What do you mean by bisexual flower? Bisexual flower means having both male and female in the same body, whereas unisexual flower having only one parent, whether it will be having male parent or it will be having a female parent. What a kind of a flower it is? See, if we see here, the anther and filament, both are what? A part of a male parent. Male parent. Okay, and what is the name of the male parent? That is androecium or stamen. Androecium or stamen. Okay, children. Secondly, if we say a female parent, that is stigma, style, and ovary. What is this? A female parent. Okay, and its name is gynoecium. You call it gynoecium or pistil. Okay, so gynoecium or pistil, androecium or stamen. Okay, and now if we say what kind of a flower it is a bisexual flower. Why it is a bisexual flower? Because it's having female and male, or say both the parents in the same flower. Okay, children, I hope you all are understood. Now let's go further. In this chapter you will learn about some new words, or say new headings which you've never heard before. Like, for example, I say microspore, megaspore. This is the male reproductive organ. Okay, and this is the female reproductive organ. Always remember, children, I'll be always teaching you on the basis of comparative study. What do you mean by comparative study? You cannot remember singly or individually the topics. If you've never if you'll never do comparative study, it will be kind of a difficult task for you. So to understand it more clearly, you all always have to do comparative study. Okay, so male reproductive organ, if I talk about, so this is the structure of a microsporangium. Up now, what is microsporangium? Microsporangium, it is a new word. Remember, if you remember, children, we had learnt about plant kingdom in class 11. In plant kingdom, I had taught you about the different divisions of plant kingdom, like Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms, Angiosperms. Okay, so in Pteridophyta, there were two kind of spores found: microspore, megaspore, and that is a kind of an evolution that in plant kingdom. Further, in angiospermic plants, microspores further develop into these structures. Okay, but still we name them in this way. Okay, like for example, microspores say give rise to microsporangia. Okay, they are smaller in size, and thus they are called as microspore. Secondly, it derives basically which part, that is male part or male parent. Okay, so the place where microspores are formed, that place is called as microsporangium. What is a microspore? A microspore is a pollen grain. You all must be knowing about it. Must have heard also. What is a pollen grain? It is a kind of a structure which comprise of male gametes. Now, if we talk about gamete, so we also read in sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, we read that a parent, what does it produces? Gametes, and then undergo what? Fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the fusion of male and female gamete to form zygote. Okay, children, this is your storyline of sexual reproduction. Similarly, the parent body is what? Microsporangium, and it will produce what? Male gamete. How it will produce? With the help of microspore. Firstly, inside the microsporangium, microspore is formed, and inside the microspore or pollen grain, male gametes are present. Okay, now let's see the structure of a microsporangium. We read here that a male parent comprises of anther and filament. Particularly remember the anther structure, the structure of anther is this. How it is? As you all know, the typical anther structure is like this. This is how it is. Okay, this is anther and this is filament. Okay, this is anther, this is filament. Okay, and if we enlarge this view, then we'll get to know its basic structure, that is this. Okay, if you see here, it is what? If you see, it is having two kind of rooms. You call it theca. Okay, it is dithecous. Means two thecas are there, or say two layers are there. Each theca is having two lobes. These are lobes, or say small rooms inside the theca. Two thecas. Okay, so these are the two lobes, and each lobe comprises of sporogenous tissue. Okay, let's see how will you label it. This is the structure of a typical anther. Okay, a typical anther comprises of few layers. The very first layer is called as epidermis. The outermost layer is epidermis. Then second layer is endothecium. You call it endothecium. And the next layer is called as middle layer. Always remember, children. Take it, this is epidermis, this is endothecium, and this is middle layer. Fine, children. Okay, up next comes what is inside. Inside, these lobes comprise of one more layer, that is tapetum. Usually the question comes that what are the layers of a microsporangium. So what are the layers of microsporangium? That is, those are four layers: epidermis, endothelium, middle layer, and tapetum. Okay, up now, what are the functions of all these layers? Epidermis, it has got a protective function. Similarly, endothelium, a protective function. Middle layer, a protective function. But tapetum has got a specific function that it helps in the nourishment of the inside pollen grains. This is the particular function. And what is it? This is the structure of a young anther or young microsporangium. Okay, children, this is the structure of a young anther or young microsporangium, which comprise of each lobe comprise of a tissue called as sporogenous tissue. Okay, these lobes are comprising sporogenous tissue during the young condition. Okay, done, children. So this is a typical structure, and what is at the center? That is connective, from where the filament gets attached. One thing more I want to tell you all of you, that this area, the gap, this area is sterile. Sterile matlab means that they do not undergo any division. They are totally sterile. Okay, whereas these are what? They are non-sterile. They undergo division and produce further cells. Okay, up next, let's come here when they undergo maturation. This is a mature anther or mature microsporangium. Okay, what happens here? The sporogenous tissue undergo division and forms pollen grains. Okay, now the pollen grains have been formed inside. So later, after a while, what happens? The dehiscence means breaking down of the layers takes place, and these pollen grain are removed or released into the atmosphere. This condition comes after maturation period. This is called as gamete transfer. And this process occurs when? This process occurs during pollination. All of you remember, surely. So you all got it. This is the structure of a young microsporangium or anther. This is the structure of a mature anther, where pollen grains, or say the sporogenous tissues, convert into pollen grains inside the microsporangium, and lately the layers dehisce and release pollen grains into the atmosphere for pollination. This is the whole structure of a microsporangium or male reproductive organ to produce pollen grains. Okay. Lately, now if we see a female reproductive organ comprises of this center part. If you remember in this diagram, what is this? This is stigma, this is style, and this is ovary. And inside the ovary is ovule. This is the whole part of a pistil. What is a pistil? A female reproductive organ. And what is the name of a female reproductive organ? Here the male reproductive organ was microsporangium, and here it is called as megasporangium. It is called as megasporangium. Okay, similarly like microsporangium, it is large in size, and thus it is called as megasporangium. Okay, similarly, as it is a megasporangium, means it comprises of what? Megaspore. And megaspore comprise of female gamete. Similarly, like in male reproductive organ, there was a pollen grain comprised of male gamete. Similarly here, the megasporangium comprised of megaspore, and megaspore comprised of female gamete. Done, children. Up lately, see what is this? It literally resembles a pea plant. Okay, if you see, it is a pea fruit. Okay, you also call it a pod. Okay, so what is it? This total is a fruit, and you all know that fruit gets developed from ovary. So it is an ovary. Inside the ovary, what is present? This is ovule. As we discussed here, you can see here this is ovary and this is ovule. And always remember that ovary give rise to fruit and ovule give rise to seed. So similarly, the diagram is here depicting everything. You can see clearly. If you can see, there's one blue line here I have made. This blue line is particularly called as placenta. Okay, what is placenta? It is a connection between ovary and ovule. Placenta. Now, if we see an enlarged view of ovule, so we can see here. This is the diagram of a typical anatropous ovule. It is called as anatropous ovule. What do you mean by anatropous ovule? Anatropous ovule means it is completely inverted at 180 degree. Its design is like this. It's totally inverted. Okay, so that is why it is called as an anatropous ovule. Okay, so if we see the diagram of an anatropous ovule, you can see here the ovule is joined by ovary by a layer, or say by a tube kind of a structure. What is this tube? This is this tube. Okay, if you see here, this is, you also call it funicle, funiculus or funicle, funiculus. This is this layer. Okay, lately this funiculus is connected to the ovule with the help of one constriction, that is what you call it hilum. That is hilum. Okay, what is the structure of an ovule? If you see here, this ovule comprises of some protective layers. Here, this one, all are same. You call them outer. There's one layer, you call it outer integument. It has got a protective function. We'll later discuss about it. Secondly, there's one more layer inside. Okay, this is outer integument, and this is this one and this one. Both are what? Inner integument. Remember, this layer and this layer is outer integument. Okay, and this layer is inner integument. Inner integument. Okay, children, what is this? This is an interesting structure which you call as embryo sac. At the maturation time, it develops further. I'll let you know later. So this is all. And lately, there are two ends in an ovule. This end is called as chaliceal end, and this end is called as micropilar end. Okay, so this is a typical anatropous ovule. Now, if we see here, we see a fruit which is an ovary. Inside the ovary, there are seeds which are particularly ovule, nothing else but ovule. And ovule is connected to an ovary with the help of placenta, and this tube is funiculus. Funiculus is joined with the ovule with the help of hilum, and the embryo sac, the growing embryo sac. Embryo sac is also called as what? You also call it megasporangium. Okay, so this is megasporangium, embryo sac. Remember, children, and ovule comprise of megasporangium. Okay. Okay, sorry. This is not megasporangium. Megasporangium is the ovule I had told you previously. Megasporangium is an ovule. Okay, and whereas megasporangium comprises of megaspore. What is that? That is embryo sac. If we say comparative study, so you can see here this was microsporangium. It comprised of pollen grains, which are what? Pollen grains are microspore. You can see a microsporangium anther. Anther, and it comprises of microspore, which is a pollen grain containing male gametes. Similarly here, megasporangium ovule, it comprises of megaspore, which is an embryo sac. Megasporangium is what? Ovule. It has got embryo sac, which is a megaspore, and megaspore comprises of female gamete. And female gamete is where? Here. Female gamete is here, which you call egg cell. This is a female gamete. And you're done, children. Okay, so this is the structure of a typical anadromous ovule. If you can see here, I have labeled it somewhere here, a layer which has got a specific function. You call it nucellus. It is a nucellus. What is a nucellus? Nucellus has got a very significant function that it has in the nutrition of the growing embryo sac. Remember, similarly, like here, tapetum had a significant function that it provides nourishment to the growing pollen grain. Similarly, here nucellus provides nourishment to the growing embryo sac. And this is how the comparative study of male reproductive organ and female reproductive organ takes place. Okay, children. Lately, if we talk about the formation of male gamete and female gamete, so let's come with the formation of gametes. If we say female gamete and male gamete, this is microsporogenesis. Now, what do you mean by microsporogenesis? Microsporogenesis means